Boy, when I, like, really got into a relationship with my G-spot, I was like, "Jesus Christ, all my life, I've never known you, and right now I'm fucking in love with you." And then I met my A-spot, and she like, talk about
Ooh,
powerful orgasms, and then we were in a threesome because when you put them all together and
yeah.
A-spot orgasms are just so much deeper. And when I'm trying to process grief or when I'm processing grief or trauma or anything else, it's usually the A-spot orgasm that starts to unlock that shit. You know, when
Ugh.
that orgasm starts to come, I'm like, "All right, let's just do it, right?" Let's just let it come out. It's a deeper sensation. But the point is, I had to really create a relationship with myself. And I had to become my own best lover, and I had to learn my own pussy, my own vagina, but my whole body and my own brain, and I'm still exploring it.
There's something coming over me. I never ever felt so free. I'm flying out the energy. Yeah, I'm feeling kinda crazy. Everything's so amazing. Yeah, I jump so high. I hit the sky. I can't believe I'm so happy. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Never thought I could dream so big, but it's so so good. Yeah.
Hello, pinecones. I'm Samia Mounds. Welcome back to Happy Slut, the podcast where we celebrate humans who take joy in their sexuality in spite of patriarchy. And nobody is taking as much joy in their sexuality as this week's guest. Annette Benedetti is a podcaster, a writer, and an intimacy coach and sex educator based in Portland, Oregon, who has her own podcast called Talk Sex with Annette, where for years now, she's been giving you all of her best tips and all of her expert guests' best tips on how to be better in bed. Annette also has an origin story around sex that mirrors many of my guests thus far and many of you out there listening. We all grew up in this culture that supports this system called patriarchy, which really messes up intimacy for human beings. A lot of us out there have suffered some form of sexual violence, and that is part of Annette's origin story. So before we get into the interview, I do have to say that this episode contains mentions of sexual violence, child sexual abuse, and the absolute worst ways for a family and community to respond to such a horrible thing happening. So listen with care. Protect yourself. If that's a triggering topic for you, this might not be the episode. That being said, this episode is also all about healing, specifically Annette's healing journey and how she reclaimed her own sexuality and pivoted into a career where she's now helping other people do the same thing. I won't talk your ear up at the beginning of this episode. I'm just going to say real quick, thank you to those of you who have left new reviews, comments, who've sent me DMs. I love you all. If you have not left a review for this show yet, please just pause really quick and leave a 5-star review and let the world know what you like about this show so that other people can find us. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Here is Annette Benedetti. Annette Benedetti, welcome to Happy Slut.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're here. We had an amazing conversation for your podcast, Sex Talk with Annette, just last week or a few days ago. I can't remember what is time, but I had so much fun talking with you about how to give women more pleasure in bed. And
That episode is a gold mine
it really is.
of tips.
So many good tips. I'll link to it in the show notes of this episode. But today we're going to talk all about you. I am so fascinated by you. I think you have such a fun, flirty, joyful grasp on what makes sex and sexuality fun and enjoyable. So when I put that knowledge of like how you talk about sex, how just free you are, alongside the knowledge that you have an origin story that has trauma in it and it wasn't always so fun and flirty and easy. I'm really so interested and fascinated in people who are able to like bridge that gap for themselves and reclaim their sexuality. So we're going to, if you're comfortable, go all the way back to the beginning. Little Annette, Like, I'd love to just hear your origin story and what set the foundations for you to become this badass lady that you are today.
I was raised back in the 80s, and I think I was always a very, I wanna say, sensual being. I loved wearing pretty dresses and perfumes, and I was raised on Disney and Princess and Cinderella stories, and then as I came into myself, which really, puberty honestly starts for children around 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. That was the time when I started to notice the things that older men would say me. Like my father worked in management level engineering firm and would have parties, and the men it's like like Mad Men era, men out there kind of coming to the parties and getting drunk and saying things to the daughters like, oh, you're going to break hearts, or if I were your age, you know you
Yeah.
it, it a lot of women this will resonate for, and that was normal, and that
Mhm.
was considered okay, right?
Yep.
So when we look at what's happening today on a global level in our own presidential office, right? And we wonder, how can people tolerate this? It's because they've always been tolerating it, right? And so I was living really in that time where all of that stuff was baked into young girls and older men and their wives, right?
Yeah.
And through the course of growing up, I started looking for boyfriends early. I was, as soon as I hit a teenager, I wanted to find the boyfriend and the love of my life. And so I think I was very susceptible, as many women my age, or girls at that time my age, were. And then at the age of 13, I was violently raped. And that really is an identifying point in my life where everything that I knew as safe was it just ended. I mean, I remember the day after and the day after that, just as always being changed, like understanding something was fundamentally broken. And also from that day forward, anytime I was shown attention or I was flirty or anything like that, drew a sharp response, right? The expectation of a young girl or a woman, if she has been sexually assaulted or raped, and or something in that vein that is wrong has happened, is that, oh, she's going to like shrivel and like, hide from the world and so on and so forth. And at that time, I wasn't necessarily outspoken about it. I didn't even really, I was very young. I was 13 going on 14. I was living in the 80s. There wasn't really a word for what had happened to me, right?
Was this something that your family knew about, that your community knew about? Because the way you're speaking about it, it's almost like you're saying, like, people knew around you that this had
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah, I lived in a very small town in Idaho.
Oh.
And word got out pretty quickly, but the word that got out wasn't that I had been raped. It was that I had had sex with an older man. I was 40, I believe he was 33 or 34. You have to, one thing that I think also really important to talk about is that details, like specific ages and faces, all of that stuff and trauma gets very blurred
Yeah.
for someone who has experienced the trauma. And
So the
yeah, the
story
story went
around was that you had had consensual sex, but of course that's not possible for a 13-year-old.
is possible. Yeah, absolutely. That story followed me for a long time. And I didn't have the words even for what had happened to me, right? I knew that it didn't feel like it was supposed to. I knew that I had said no. I knew that certain things had happened throughout the experience, right? But people around me weren't reacting as such, right? It was very, very different the way, and so I just wanted it to go away. In fact, my parents did take me into the police station the next day. My own parents' reaction to it was violent. So I had violence stacked upon violence in that situation. And I didn't really know. I was 13. I didn't
Yeah.
know what was happening at all. So, I went to the police station and I do remember what I knew is I was scared of all the people involved, and I tried to make it sound like no one had done anything to me, that it had all been consensual because I wanted it just to go away. And, of course, just by looking at me, the police should have known better. I had it was, like I said, a violence upon violence, and I looked like a child who had had violence committed against me. So, that was I think of that, and it's not I don't talk about it well, most people don't wanna talk about it when I'm interviewed, but that is definitely my inception story, and I do remember for so long living with why does feeling like that moment meant I was ruined in some way, and if you look at our culture, that is how it sets women up to feel as though some, shitty man can do one simple act to you and it takes away your worth, which you and I know is absolute bullshit, right?
Of course.
But at
But
the
yes, this
time,
is the message of patriarchy. You're defiled now. And we're going to simultaneously say that you're dirty, even though, like, we know this was forced upon you. It's obvious, but we're going to pretend you wanted it. And we're going to say you're dirty and he's fine, but you're broken. That's what patriarchy does
absolutely.
to women. It's disgusting. I'm so sorry this happened to you and I hate it. I hate it. I
Yeah.
wish I could take it away.
And well, but then we wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing, which I often say now is like it's so interesting when I look at the arc for you writers out there or storytellers, that stories, good stories have an arc. You can see
Yeah.
in the beginning sets the ground and you go on your journey and then where they end up, you're like, oh, this makes sense. And I'm definitely at that point in my life right now where I feel like, oh, this is my purpose, which is so incredibly fulfilling because of course at that time in my life I thought I was the only one. I thought some it was me, right?
Right.
But through the course of my life and the work that I've done in multiple capacities of what I've learned is like so many women out there are just like me. And if you are having sex with women, regardless of if you're a man or another woman, chances are, if you're having sex with more than one woman or you have in your life, you have been with a woman who has experienced some sort of sexual assault and
Yep.
or is carrying sexual trauma in their body. And nobody is talking about what comes after the horrific event, right? Nobody talks about what comes after rape or assault. The story ends there, or it ends with, oh, she spends her life in therapy. She walks around in baggy clothing. She avoids intimacy. She doesn't have healthy relationships. You go to the movies, and that is what you're going to see. Or she finds the one man who's going to love her in a monogamous relationship, and she becomes the conventional wife.
And he
I mean,
saves
that would be
her.
the happiest ending
Right.
in our society's story. And I'm here to tell you that that is absolute bullshit. That isn't the fix. It's not the correction. It's not the somehow erasing the rape by becoming the, conservative wife mom who dotes on the husband. That is one story. If that makes you feel, if that is what you want and who you truly are, great. But there are a lot of different things that you can do and become that are just as wonderful and healing. And there's a lot of different ways that you can interact with intimacy and sex that are healthy. You don't have to, if you are sexually assaulted and afterwards, within whatever period of time, you seek out sex, you want to experience sex, you want sexual pleasure, you want closeness with another person intimately, that's also okay and can be very healing, right?
Yes. So let's
And
talk
that's the
about
story you don't hear.
And yes, exactly. It's a great segue. Let's talk about that story. So what did come after for you? How does your journey go from this terrible violent moment where you actually decided as a 13-year-old, I'm going to put everyone else at ease by erasing what just happened to me and telling them it was okay. What came next for you? What are the key points that you
It
went
didn't
on
go
your
well
journey?
after.
Yeah,
It
let's talk
didn't.
about it.
I mean, I think it's like again, I hope this resonates with a lot of people, especially from my era. I mean, I didn't. My parents did put me in counseling, at first with a therapist who was one of their friends, and that didn't help. And then they, moved me immediately away from everything I knew,
Ugh.
to a different town and put me in counseling. And I will say for that counselor was the only person along the way who actually said to my parents that he didn't do his job, which would have been to say, "Okay, this child has been physically harmed and needs some intervention." But he did at least threaten my parents with that, and he said, "If I hear of you being violent towards her again, then I'm gonna have to report this." Which to my parents was so insulting because they were just like, "This child who's out of control and isn't doing what we did our best," and, and punishment at the time was, like, fairly standard. Physical punishment at the time was fairly standard. And so from there, I was out of control. I didn't know how to heal myself. I didn't have any tools. I couldn't emotionally regulate. I definitely turned to like smoking and drinking and drugs at an early age, unhealthy, intimate relationships at an early age. I think that something that made me feel worse about myself was that I felt like my reaction should be to not want any intimacy or to flirt anymore or any of that stuff, and I actually still wanted to engage in that. I was coming into my body. I was kind of coming into this power that I had and my
Mm.
sexual pleasure, right? And I wanted to, like, explore it, and I felt guilty for
Oh,
that. I
how
felt like it's like, "Oh,
confusing.
oh, yeah." I was like, "Obviously, I made all this happen because this happened and I'm wanting more of it," which isn't at all what I was wanting, right? But my
Right.
my brain didn't know the difference, and nobody sat down to talk to me about it.
Right, well,
And
all
I
the
mean,
adults in your life are acting as if you were a participating, like, equal adult decision maker in this situation instead of a child who'd been abused. So everything around you is confirming it's your fault and you must have wanted it and you must have caused it. So why wouldn't you think that that was true?
and here's what I want people to hear. The reason why all of the adults in my life reacted that way is the same reason why when it comes to reacting to the Epstein files and what happened there and what's happening to young girls everywhere, it's the same reason why everyone is reacting to it the way they are now, why we aren't all banging our heads against the wall and demanding reparations. Because in order to do that, everyone has to look at all of the men in their life, their fathers, their grandfathers, their partners, and acknowledge the likelihood that on some level, they have contributed to that at some level, whether they kept their mouth shut or they laughed when another man said something. We have to look at all of our heroes, every fucking last one, and take them down a notch. And people aren't willing to do that.
And they have to be able to look at themselves. I mean,
Hmm.
I had an anonymous guest on recently, a guy in his 40s who admitted to being the kind of dude in his 20s and 30s who would say and do whatever he had to do to get a woman in bed. He said, "We were all on that Me Too shit back then. I was too, every single guy I know." And to hear a man admit that in a public setting, I mean, anonymously, but still, was huge for me. But for that to happen on a mass scale, I mean, it would be world changing, but yeah, really a big ask.
Yeah. And again, it is not just an ask from the men. I remember very distinctly we lived on a golf course in this town that we live in. They had a country club, right? And all of the wives of the men who all worked together would come together with their children, and we'd all hang out there during the summer on our off time. And and they always the wives treated me strangely. Now you have to understand that to me, these women were mentors. This is like who I wanna be when I grow up, these women who would come with their hair done and their nails done, and they had the, like, well-off husbands who were, according to what I'd been taught, handsome and, like, good men taking care of their families, and so I only wanted their approval, right? I wanted
Mhm.
them to like me. I wanted them to say reassuring things. And I remember one time one of their husbands came to the pool and I was in the pool with their kids. I would babysit their kids sometimes. And I was playing with the kids and he got in the pool, with us. It was like the kiddie pool and we were laughing. And suddenly one of the kids grabbed him and started pulling him away from me and said, "Mom told me to keep you away from her." Or something of that sort. It was something very much like, "Mom doesn't want you around me." I'll never forget just the freezing inside. Yeah, that was just, the
Wow.
soup I grew up in. And
It's the soup we all
so,
grew up in. It's the soup we
it's
all grew
really
up in.
not good. Not good. So that's really kind of where my relationship with sex started.
Yeah.
There. And then, it was sort of a messy flailing and really just trying to find, like always chasing the dream of finding the one when I was younger, because that was still, during this whole thing, of course, I'm struggling with like, what do I want those women to be my mentor or do I think they're kind of pretty? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, I mean, there was just so much going on and there were no answers. And I couldn't ask because to ask raised an eyebrow because everybody knew very quietly that there had been this event that took place, right? The event that took place. So, what really happened was things culminated in, I was rebellious. I ran away from home a lot. I was sort of an out of control teen, rightfully so, right? I didn't have anywhere to land and be held and unconditionally loved or feel unconditional love. And the combination of drugs and then I mean, I did, graduate high school with decent grades, so I don't know how I pulled some shit off. I was, like, good at doing what I needed to do, but it really culminated in an anxiety disorder. I will always have panic disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and getting to the point where I just couldn't function anymore. I was like, "This is awful. Like, I
By
don't think
what
I can
point?
continue." So, panic disorder really it's often a late onset disorder. So, I'll never forget when I had my first panic attack. I was 2 years into I was going to community college, and that was when I was doing drugs. And I had decided to go to Berkeley to stay with my friend. I needed to get out of the little shitty town I was in. It's not that little, but it's little enough, and it's very shitty. Um, and I had a friend who was going to Berkeley, and I was like, "Oh, maybe if I go to California, maybe I can and I somehow get into one of these nice colleges." I didn't, I was flailing, and I moved there, and that move just broke something loose in me, and I started having panic attacks. I didn't know what they were, but I thought I was losing my mind, essentially.
Wow.
Um, I had started kind of having them at a base level, and then one day, I mean, I was just coming undone, and I decided to pack everything in my car when my friend and everyone was gone and to drive home. And on that car ride home, I started to have my first full-blown panic attack, and I thought I was gonna die. And that was kind of when I almost put my car through a gas station because I pulled off the highway because I was shaking so hard. And that was kind of like the breaking point for me. I was like it got worse and worse as the days went on. My parents kind of were embarrassed about it. When I got home, I had to say something was going on, so they if my memory serves me correctly, they're like, "Well, we've got a friend who's an MD. We'll just take you to him. He'll give you some meds." He was like a gastroenterologist.
Jesus.
And
Let's
he gave
just
me
give her
this
some
fly.
Prozac.
He did. He gave me Xanax and some antidepressant, which actually made things worse. It made
Mm.
me want to unalive myself. And you know what? Through all of this, what I love myself for is I figured it out. I was able to go, this drug is making me want to drive off the highway. I think I'm going to stop it. And I just started taking shit into my own hands. I got myself into a four-year college and I started studying psychology, of course. And that's sort of where everything started, like really exploring, the human design and what makes us up. I put myself into therapy there with probably, I would say, one of the two best therapists I've ever been to. Because at the time, my anxiety was so bad, I couldn't drive a car on a highway, which meant I couldn't drive home. I couldn't go anywhere that it wasn't just small little streets. I lived a very tiny life. And he got me back to driving again, which was just huge. I was going back to visit my family, and it was always I became an alcoholic when I was there. It was always just terrible, and I'd come back, and he'd spend, weeks undoing that damage, and at one point, he's like, "At some point, you may have to consider taking a break from this relationship."
Yeah.
He's the only one who ever said that, which would happen later on in my life. But that's when I decided, like, I want something different.
Did you have
Mhm.
support from any areas of your life in this time when you were like, I'm going to take things into my own hands? This is obviously my parents don't know what they're doing. This gastroenterologist doesn't know what he's doing. Like, fuck this, I'm doing it myself. Did you have like friends or a community or a lover or like something that was helping you with that? Or was this truly just like you survival instinct getting yourself out of bad hands and into your own?
I think that I had a couple friends, or the friends I had in my life were trying to be as supportive as they could. They were dealing with someone who I had big panic attacks sometimes, and those can look really scary to the people around me. They could happen out of the blue where I'd have to stop whatever I was doing and like talk myself down from it. And I think to a lot of people, I was a lot. And in defense of myself, fairly so, right?
Yeah.
Like, I do look back a lot, and something that I should mention underlies this, that of course I didn't know at the time, and I've only found out in the last 2 years, is I also have severe ADHD, and you've probably experienced it when we've been talking. Like
Have you
like
experienced mine? Did we not both start our interviews very, very fucking late for both of our own podcasts?
yeah, every time you're like, "Hey, I need a little more time," I'm like, "Thank fucking God, it's her, not me."
Same. Every time someone else is running late, I'm like, oh, thank God, because I always am.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but I think the problem is for women, people didn't even know how it looked in young girls. And
Yeah,
so a
this is a
lot of
new
us grew
thing.
up being called too much or
Too much
judged for how we
dramatic.
act. Right, right.
She's an
Like,
attention whore.
uh-huh, mhm. Hypersexuality because we go out and we like you flirt with everyone and that I'm like, I'm just talking to him. Well, don't smile so much. He's gonna think you're flirting. But that's just me. Like I grew up with that.
Yeah.
And what this also did was it made me really afraid of losing the friends I did have. So I really tried to calm myself down and be a little smaller in the room to maintain those friendships. I definitely had girlfriends that stopped being my friend because of my big personality and because we'd go out and I would get hit on and they wouldn't. And it created a dynamic. And I was just like, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just talking. So my self and my sexuality, everything was just out of control. My answer to that was to pull back, to be smaller, to be less fun and friendly, to be less sexy in whatever way I was finding sexy, and to hate that part of me. And
Wow.
in order to do that, I had to take that part of me and I had to put it away somewhere else, right?
How did you come around to taking that part of you off the shelf, dusting her off, and putting her back on and flaunting her so beautifully like you do now?
Yeah. Well, so that's been sort of the journey. I worked first really, really hard on fixing the panic disorder and anxiety disorder because it was so miserable. It was destroying my life and
Yeah.
pushing me to the point of really not wanting to live anymore. It was so uncomfortable and awful. And I did that through yoga. I got into really deep yoga practice, not the kind of yoga that you see today with the music and the, massive packed rooms. I found an Iyengar yoga studio where no music, just breath, and a teacher who was very strict and really taught me how to get back in my body because one of the things a lot of women do who have experienced sexual trauma is learn to disassociate from their body, which also leads to a lot of the panic that happens. And
Yeah.
so I had to create a relationship with my body that was one of trust. And I had to start believing that being in my body was a safe place to be. I had no idea that for years I'd been out here hovering around and, dancing around outside of myself, trying to cling to my body in one way or the other. And yoga was a big tool for that and creating a mind body practice, a breath practice, which I use without even knowing these days. If I start to get stressed out, like I'll start a breathing practice that's automatic. It just kicks in and it's wonderful. But that was one place where I started to regain my footing on life. What I did then was I got married and I tried to be a domestic mother and look like the kind of mother I'd grown up with, and I was fucking miserable. I didn't wanna
Oh.
have sex. My ex-husband is one of my very best friends in the
Oh,
whole
I'm
world,
glad. I'm glad to hear that.
but we're besties in a healthy way to any woman who's dating him. He's wonderful. We're just like friends. He's like my brother. But it was I was not sexual. I was not interested in sex. I was raising babies. I have 3 children, and I lost myself. And one thing that I do love about myself is I am nothing if not determined. I can only handle that for so long. And then I'm like,
Yes. I love
mm.
I love the number of times you said, and something I love about myself is this. Like I get such a thrill from hearing women talk about the things they love about themselves. Like it's such a beautiful thing. We don't do it enough. And you've done it, I think, twice in this conversation. You're just giving me life. You're giving me inspiration. I hope you know that.
Yeah.
Go on.
I find things I love about myself, new things all the time, by the way. So it's one of my favorite things about being alive and being my
Ah,
age, which is wonderful. This is like my time. Um,
yes.
so I needed to get back to myself, and my marriage did not go well. I mean, we were great at running businesses together and raising kids together, but we definitely had our struggles and ended up separating. And then I started fucking a lot.
For all of my straight and bi men listening, and my gay and bi women listening, everybody who has sex with women and wants to do better, I've got a product for you. Have you heard of Kenneth Play? He is an Adonis of a man, and he has put together a video course teaching others how to please women the way only he knows how. I have personally had the pleasure of spending an intimate evening with Kenneth. I don't think I've ever had a first-time sexual encounter with somebody that was just 100% pleasurable. There was never a moment of pain. There was never a moment of meh. He knew my body better than I knew my body. He found pleasure spots in me that I did not know I had, and he made me come many times. I have gifted his web course, Beyond Satisfied Pro, to lovers of mine, and in every case, they have become better lovers as a result. And now I would like to gift this to you with a 15% discount. Go to kennethplay.com/closeted. That link gets you 15% off Kenneth's Beyond Satisfied Pro course. This is just for my listeners. Trust me. No one regrets being great in bed, and this course will get you there. kennethplay.com/closeted.
And it was
So I was going to ask
lovely.
you, like, how sexually active you were when you were younger in college years and all of that.
I'm glad that you stopped us and we're going to go back because I think
Yeah.
that that's really important, a part of this conversation. So I was very I would say in comparison to my peers, I was very sexually active and I sought it out. Like I enjoyed having sex. I enjoyed flirting. That was something that I loved to do. I explored my bisexuality to some extent. I definitely had to well, through the late high school and then through, my later teens, early adulthood had to kind of deal with the slut whore label that people sometimes wanted to throw on me. But I had a lot of sex. I had a lot of orgasmless sex though. I wasn't really having orgasms. I mean, I was having them with myself a lot. And I had a girlfriend who had a crush on who gave me my first vibrator. And then I was like, fuck, this is great. And then she had me stay the night at her house and she was like, just as friends. And she was like, oh, maybe we should just use our vibrators together. And that's when I'm like, oh, I am queer. She acted like it was just like two friends. Isn't it funny that we're doing this together? How she literally said that in the middle.
Wow.
And I'm just, oh, ha, 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 ha.
I
Uh,
would love to find her and talk to her today and be like, so what was really going on there? Like, women
yeah.
are so funny.
And I think that while at one hand, like I knew that there was a lot of like when I was single and I was just dating and having fun, I was at my best.
Mhm.
I was at my most empowered. I was able to earn the money that I needed. I was able to get the degrees. I have multiple degrees. I was just a go-getter and I was really good at acquiring things. And now looking back, I know that's because I was in my full sexual self. I was harnessing my sexual energy as the life force that it is to drive me
Yeah.
forward in all ways. And when that's taken away from me, I can see everything in my life starts to deteriorate. So then I get married. Well, I got into a relationship and I got pregnant by my partner at the time who was not able to be a father figure. So I had my first child on my own, which is one of the happiest times of my life. It was really interesting because I was in this new mothering phase, but I was also single. And I can tell you that my time as a single mother with my oldest daughter is one of my favorite times of my life. Like, I was happy. I was as happy as could be and loved being a single mom. I did have some financial help and stuff like that, and I had saved money from working ahead of time. But then I got married. I met a man, my ex-husband, and got married. And I think that I felt like, "Oh, okay, now it's time for me to be mother, not mommy,
Yeah.
mother." I don't
Mother.
know, the very
Stop being the
unsexualized.
whore. You are now the Madonna. Yeah, let me fit this
I don't
role.
wanna be a Madonna.
No, I mean, I want to be
Course,
Madonna, but not like the Madonna.
the Madonna. Uh, but I want to go back to the fact that I was very sexual post sexual assault. I could never fully enjoy it because along with that came this underlying feeling of, maybe I wasn't really raped. Like, look at me, like, wanting to have sex. Look at me doing it freely and in different ways, like, while all my female peers were, like, missionary and getting humped away at, I was, like, writing I wanted to be a poet, writing poems about sex and, like, you know, fucking now I'm in the '90s doing some, Mazzy star fucking with, like, 69 and, like, doing some I don't know, whatever. I was one of the few people that had toys and I got nasty and, in comparison to
Yes.
my peers. But with that came like this feeling of like something was wrong with me, right?
Right.
Because I wasn't acting out the part of either the woman that society told me I should be or the kind of woman I should be if I had truly had the trauma that I believed I had had when I was younger. And I think,
Wow.
of course, to my family and friends who knew about that, it made them question if that had ever happened.
Kind of a nonstop
And
gaslighting from all corners, including your own mind. Like,
and I
you're
would say most of my partners, because I would
yeah.
eventually, if I was in a long-term relationship, I think that it's important to tell your partner about trauma, and I would tell them about being raped. Never right up front. I've never been someone to like trauma dump early, and oftentimes the way they reacted to it, I was always like, it was always like, oh, oh, okay. Like what every man reacted to it with disinterest or half belief. Everyone. I had never have had a partner who I have told that to who has literally looked at me and said, "Okay." like, I'd like to sit down and hear about it and, like, how does that affect you? And is there anything I can do to support that? Or does that affect how you wanna have sex with me? Like, never. And I think that that is, very common too. And so I always felt like I had to prove it. You know, how do you prove that you've been raped? And really most of that was happening in my head. Like, it wasn't like I was going out and, like, trying to prove it.
It's these societal ideas like you're if you've been raped, you're supposed to not ever want sex again, and if you still want sex, that means you wanted to be raped. Like, that's the logic, right? But the reality is predators know how to target kids. They know how to target kids. They can pick up on energies. You were already this blossoming, you're 13, you were this blossoming sexual being, and this fucking asshole took advantage of that. That's
And I
what
had been
happened.
primed for it. We should
He'd
talk
been
about how I'd been primed for it. All of these other men, these
primed and
older,
groomed.
they primed and groomed me for this man to be able to walk in the door.
Yeah,
And, you know, by saying all of these flirty things, oh, I would be your boyfriend if I was some fucking 50-year-old fucker telling a 13-year, if I was your age, I'd be your boyfriend.
it's
What
so
the
creepy.
fuck? You know, and I have 3 children, and if any motherfucker had said anything like that to my kid, I would've like, I don't but that is not what our parents were doing at the time, right? Because
Yeah,
it was how all men kind of acted.
it was their normal too.
100%. And so I didn't ever really get to settle into my sexuality or embrace it or feel proud about it. And I should have felt proud about it. When I look and I look back, I have pictures and I see myself. I'm just like, oh my God, you were so pretty and you were so fun. I was so fucking fun. And I could never stop questioning my worth. So I could
Yeah,
never fully enjoy it
yeah.
at all. And then I go into motherhood and I'm like, okay, this will fix it. I'm going to feel right now because I'm going to have these babies and I'm baking bread. I was baking my bread at home for
From
my husband
scratch.
when he came on. God, from scratch. That was really miserable. I don't even eat bread anymore. Um, but I wasn't happier. I was
Yeah.
not happier. And our relationship definitely took a took a toll. Fortunately, we had a really good friendship that held the parenting together and businesses and stuff like that. But, you know, kind of the minute I think both of us were really able to be kind of honest about like we aren't super happy. Not that it wasn't messy because we had our messy moments. But that gave me an opportunity to move through trying non-monogamy. I moved to Portland, thank God, trying non-monogamy, exploring my sexuality, having my first, like, well, I say having my first threesomes, but I did one time in college early on I had a threesome, and I don't know why I never think of it as that in the backseat of a car with two of my friends. So it wasn't my first,
Huh.
but I was able to really get into exploring threesomes is what I should say, because I like some group sex, like,
I
it's
love a
fun.
threesome. I love
I
a three
love it.
listen, bi girlies bi people love threesomes because we want all of the flavors of humanity in the room. It's so
Yep.
delicious.
I think it's just, like, it's fun, like, I'm so you know, we talked about I'm so pansexual, like, I'm just, like I think people can be really sexy and interesting, like, any person, and so it's kind of fun, like, I love to go to a sex club, so I got to go to sex clubs and just watch and see what all there was.
How long were you married?
So, we separated after I got married when I was 30. We
Okay.
separated after, I wanna say 6.5 years. We didn't legally divorce until 2 years ago.
Oh,
It's 2
wow.
years ago.
I kinda
But
love that.
we didn't we lived in separate houses, and we were bought by all, means divorced.
Yeah. So
But
your sexual renaissance where you're having sex the way you want to and fully embracing it for the first time is happening in, like, your late 30s.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, 40s is where I really locked in. I think also in your 40s, your libido might just shoot up. Get ready for that, girl. In my 40s, I'd be walking down the street and I'd be like, I could hump that fence right now. I'm sorry.
If it shoots up anymore, I might be a problem.
I often think that too, but I'm about
I'm
to start on a testosterone journey, so I'm locking in
Ooh.
to see what will happen. I'll let you know.
Yes,
Um,
please.
but the thing is, even then, I still wasn't guiltlessly engaging because I was still, you know, it takes a lot of work to really know sex is a good thing. To really know your sexual energy is a good thing in a world that's telling you the opposite. You can say the words because you know they're the right words to say, but really believing it and learning it is a totally different thing. So
Yeah.
that leads me to so at the time, I was actually I was an editor and writer. I was firmly planted in the parenting sector of the world. I was editor of what was a national children's or parenting publication online. Yeah, parents turned to me for advice on not making children, which I can give you a lot of advice on now, but raising them. Um, then I kind of started getting into travel writing, and then President Trump I don't want can we cut that I said that out? Mr. Trump was elected after saying his comment about grabbing them by the pussy.
Yeah.
And boy, was I fucking triggered. It
Yeah.
triggered the fuck out of me. I was like, all of this shit had happened to me and everything I could see how it had affected everything that came after. And here this motherfucker who clearly had assaulted and traumatized girls and women in the past could even say it out loud and become the president. And I remember saying to my friend, I'm like, because me and my girlfriends, of course, I'm out having all of these great sexual adventures. And me and the girlies would get together and over drinks, like, I mean, we would have the raunchiest, funnest conversations. And I'm like, boy, if anyone ever had a hot mic in our conversations and put it out there, it would ruin our careers. And I'm like, fuck it. What if I did a podcast? That was the inception. And
Wow.
when I launched my podcast, the name was Locker Room Talk and Shots, in sort of like a rebuttal to that because they called his comment, locker room talk. I'm like, you want locker room talk? I'll bring locker room talk to your fucking front door. I'll put it right in your fucking headphones, right? And see how you feel about that. But it was also it was a leap because I was like, okay, I've been working in the parenting sector. And
Yeah.
those publications depend on those conservative mummies spending
Yeah.
money. I'm like, I'm gonna kill my career. If this doesn't launch it, it's gonna kill it. So I started talking. I started talking about sex and putting it out into the world. I honestly, and the world liked it. Or at least I was so had never listened to podcasts, so I just kind of did what I knew from storytelling, from writing. I knew how to write. I'm like, I can do this. And I decided to go all in, and what really happened was I reclaimed my voice that I had lost all those years ago, right? Like, I
Yeah.
had no voice. I had no way to talk about what had happened to me. I had no way to talk about what I was doing. I had no way to talk about how sex felt or didn't feel, what I was able to achieve or not achieve about, the crazy, funny, kinky stories and then the like disturbing stories or I couldn't speak. It was like someone had taken my voice away from me. And instead, what I had learned from that very moment, and probably before, when I was raped, was the most important thing I had taken from me was my voice and my ability to speak for myself. And instead, I created a voice that everyone else could tolerate and that would make people love me enough,
Mm.
but not for the whole me.
So, what's your sexual landscape now that you've liberated your voice and you are, it sounds like, very much enjoying your sex life? What does it look like these days?
So, here's what I think I want people to know. Your sex life is always going to be a journey. It's always going to be an adventure if you allow it to be. And I mean an adventure. There is no reason for anyone in this world to be bored with life because you've got your sex life to explore. And that can look like a lot of things. That can be sex with yourself. I know that there are a lot of women, especially in their 50s, who are like, I am done with it. Like, because your sex life isn't for you, it's for your partner, and you're actually done with him and having uncomfortable sex. You can still have a really exciting sex life with yourself, which is what right now, what I'm doing is guiding people on a 365 days of orgasms journey. You don't have to have an orgasm every day, but I do want to tell the quick story of what really got me fully here. In 2022, I was with an ex-boyfriend of mine, a lover of mine, who I got to explore a lot of sexual stuff with, and it felt very much like a new sexual awakening. He was long distance at the time, and we had gone to a sex club on the New Year's Eve of
Ooh.
2022. And then we had gone home and had, like, this incredible sex, and so while riding sort of a sexual, orgasmic, and alcohol-fueled high, I decided to share with the world, "I'm gonna have an orgasm every day in 2022." I was like, "I'm gonna tell everybody because then I have to, like, do it." Which seemed okay until I was a week down the road, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so hard." He had gone home, and, I was fucking myself. And I was like, "Oh my god," it was taking me 45 minutes to come. I was, like, in bed just rubbing, like, "Fucking come on," or grabbing a toy and, like, trying to get there.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized I mean, I'd always struggled with my orgasms taking a long time, and I really didn't have a lot of internal sensation.
Mm.
And I was like, "I am my own worst lover." And I'm like, "Okay, what does a good lover do?" And that's where my journey really started was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna have to do this every day, I'm gonna have to figure out what unlocks like my body and what feels good. And so I started doing things like adding sound and motion and movement and different toys and different approaches to my body and pleasure. And over the course of that year, I went through a lot. I got sick with COVID twice. I had to orgasm through all of it. And I can tell you all fully, you do not need to masturbate when you're sick. I cannot tell you one good thing that came out of that. But I did also have to masturbate through a breakup, a like devastating breakup and other difficult things.
Oh.
And through that process, I learned how to process grief and trauma. I learned my G spot and my A spot, which I had never really had a lot of sensation internally. I built trust back up with my body that was still holding trauma from being raped because your body is an amazing, amazing machine. It is built to keep you safe. And if something horrible has happened to you sexually, what it does is it shuts all the feeling down to
Mm.
keep you mentally and physically safe. Sometimes it will shut your vagina down altogether so you can't get anything inside, right? It's doing its job. And I got a chance to undo a lot of that. And boy, when I like really got into a relationship with my G spot, I was like, Jesus Christ, all my life, I've never known you. And right now I'm fucking in love with you. And then I met my A spot and she like talk about
Ooh.
powerful orgasms. And then we were in a threesome because when you put them all together,
For someone who doesn't know, I think a lot of people know where the G spot is, just inside the vaginal wall. Like you can feel it if a woman is facing and you do that a few inches in. It's like a spongy, ridged mass. But for
Mhm.
people who don't know what the A spot is, tell them.
Right. So typically, an A spot is going to be about 2 inches higher, deeper than the G spot, and it sits right behind the cervix. Now, everyone's is different on each person. Another interesting thing when I'm intimate with a woman, of course, I get to know it a little bit different from the perspective of being on the outside of a woman. Something interesting that happens with women oftentimes when they become fully aroused and you can actually then slide deeper and they want that deeper penetration is the walls balloon or tent. So the vaginal canal will suddenly become almost like this balloon inside. So if you're trying to locate it by that measurement's going to change if she
Yeah.
balloons and that location is going to change, right? So you're going to want to measure it by her reaction when you hit it and you will know and she will know. Oftentimes a lot of lubrication takes place when you hit that G or the A spot. And A
Yeah.
spot orgasms are just so much deeper. And when I'm trying to process grief or when I'm processing grief or trauma or anything else, it's usually the A spot orgasm that starts to unlock that shit. When
Ugh.
that orgasm starts to come, I'm like, all right, let's just do it, right? Let's just let it come out. It's a deeper sensation. But the point is, I had to really create a relationship with myself and I had to become my own best lover and I had to learn my own pussy, my own vagina, but my whole body and my own brain. And I'm still exploring it. And so I went through that year. Of course,
That's
through that, I was in and out of a partnership. You know, have been very exploratory. I've been lucky to be invited to some really cool sex parties and of different types because there's all different types. I've explored my kinky side and now I'm going through perimenopause and menopause, which adds a whole new layer of complexity, right? But because I've been on this journey and I built this relationship with myself where I think a lot of women, like right now, I'm struggling with the libido, I'm struggling with how I feel with my body. And where I would have just felt paralyzed and given up before, now I'm like, okay, what are the tools out there I can use to work with this? And now I need to figure out like old fantasies that used to get me off. Now I'm like, not really into that anymore. So I'm allowing myself to like go into a different fantasy world to
to
explore
evolve.
to evolve, and
Yeah.
it's so hard to do that if you're carrying shame or trauma, and if you don't have the knowledge. I have a pretty high sex drive regardless. It's been dipping lately, but I am in fact, I got testosterone is waiting for me. I'm gonna be start taking it today. I've heard it's
Today,
supposed to ramp up my sex drive and give me energy.
I've been told that I should look into testosterone like immediately. like every woman in her 40s, every woman approaching perimenopause should look into it because it's a game changer.
And they are saying, and this is information, I really want to look into this more. I'm speaking just from like, I've had several doctors talk to me and women saying that women should start testosterone earlier, late
Earlier.
30s. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So start looking into it, ladies. I mean, I'm obviously starting, I'm going to start when I start, but, more and more information is coming out about it. And that also, if you've got very many people listening to your podcast who are in long term relationships and they're post, 35, and you're noticing you don't want to fuck your dude anymore, this might be a little something that can help boost your libido. Now, if you add the testosterone and you still don't like him, then maybe it's him. But I'm just saying,
Maybe it's
sometimes.
him. Pinecones, you might have heard my interview with Dr. Elliot Justin, founder of FirmTech, and if you did, you know all about how exciting the Tech Ring is. It's a health wearable that improves men's sexual performance and gives them priceless health data that can act as an early indicator of heart issues. Yeah. During sex, it keeps you hard and makes your orgasms crazy. And during sleep, it tracks your nocturnal erections, which can literally tell you if you have issues with your heart or hormone levels before they get really bad. This product saves lives and marriages. And I'm really excited to give you a 15% discount on any of FirmTech's products with code CLOSETED at checkout. In addition to the Tech Ring, they also have the Performance Ring, a non-tech cock ring that features a really cool hook and eye design to avoid having to shimmy the ring down the length of your cock, which, if you've tried that, it's not the sexiest. They also have the Ring Mate, a vibrating attachment that works with the Tech Ring and Performance Ring and can also be used on one's fingertips. Ooh la la. Get yours today by going to myfirmtech.com and using code CLOSETED at checkout. myfirmtech.com, code CLOSETED at checkout. You're welcome. So I really want to talk about the work that you do with people. You're a
Mhm.
sex and intimacy coach. So I love this story about you You said you spent a year building trust with your body by
Mm.
becoming a better lover to yourself. I love that so much. I relate to it. I used to masturbate with like the most powerful Hitachi plug into the wall magic wand, like over my clothes because I didn't want to put any effort into it. And then I'm shocked when my orgasms take half an hour, or sometimes more because I can't focus. I was being a terrible lover to myself. I love that you talked about building that relationship with your body and building that trust and safety and being your own best lover. It also reminds me so much of what I've heard from other trauma-informed sex and intimacy coaches about finding ways to make your body feel safe with sexuality. So if somebody wanted to work with you, what would that be like for a person? Like, say it's somebody who has experienced sexual trauma and they really want a joyful, empowered sex life. Where do you start with them?
So oftentimes women don't know that the issues that they're experiencing are from trauma until I start talking to them. So first, I would go through an assessment. What are the things that you're struggling with? A lot of women struggle with, again, pain when trying to even put a toy inside themselves, not feeling anything internally at all, not being able to get aroused to the point of orgasm, even though they've gone to the doctor. That's always where you start. Of course, you make sure that we don't have anything physically going on. And if you want a good example or a good idea of the system that I would walk you through, you can go to my website, which is talksexwithannette.com, and find my 365 days of orgasms journey. I start from ground zero, building pleasure into your life. And we start with all the pleasure outside of your life. I'm talking scents, tastes, things that bring
Yes.
you pleasure. And then we learn how to convert that pleasure in the body to sensual pleasure. So we work from the outside world into the body and we start building trust with the body, right? We don't go straight for the genitals at all, depending on where you are in your journey. And we slowly work up to self-pleasuring and we learn to listen to the body. So if your body, let's say you're getting turned on and you're touching yourself in ways that get you juiced up, but then you go to touch your clit and your body powers down and is like, I don't want this, then we always honor that, right? We go
Mm.
back to whatever was building pleasure and we stay there. We never break our body's boundary. And you think to yourself, well, how will I ever get past that? Well, you are already taking a step that direction because your body is like, oh, okay, like she's going to listen to me. She's not going to push past for someone else's pleasure or for a goal. So what you'll find is
Yes.
that stopping point moves, especially when we retreat to a safe place that still is a place of pleasure. And then I'm
Mm.
just walking. I mean, we're almost, gosh, I guess we are like almost, maybe we're past a half year point. So I'm really working you into you to external clitoral stimulation. I work you through how to open up the G spot every week. And I post this on my Instagram as well at Annette Benedetti. I post videos that give you the lesson for the week and then a daily practice. So, day one, you're doing this. Day two, you're doing that. Day three, you're doing this. And the orgasm isn't the goal. The goal is the pleasure practice. You can start this any time of year. You can start anywhere in this practice. Also, it's completely free. I'm not asking for anything of it. I do suggest tools in it, tools which are sex toys that I am using on my own. And what I would say is this: women have the most intense orgasms from layered sensations, right? When it's not just one feeling, when it's just the same vibration over and over again. Well, it can numb you out. When we vary that sensation, it creates anticipation and it will like bring you up to a higher level of pleasure and a deeper orgasm. So I love if I were to say get one tool right now, the Womanizer Enhance is going to give you two things at once, but my all-time favorite that I use at least 5 days a week,
I'm so excited.
this baby.
Oh
This
my
baby.
God. So it's okay. So I call
This
the
is
Pleasure Air Tech ones, I call them clit suckers.
clit suckers, right? So
So it's a
this is
clit sucker and a G spot stimulation at the same time?
right. So this is the Womanizer blend, and just so you guys know, if you want to use my code Annette15, you get 15% off. I love this brand. When I speak about them, I'm speaking. My house is full of them, and I use them all the time. You can ask the women I've been with. Um, I'm very generous. So this one I love because you can have the most intense blended orgasms with it. And here's what I suggest people do. You turn the suction to whatever intensity you want. You get in. The other thing that's nice about it is I can take my hands away and it will stay
Yes,
in.
it'll
So I
stay.
can like watch something or chat or whatever I want to do.
Chop some
Um,
vegetables, whatever.
mhm. And so you turn the suction up to whatever you want it to be, depending on your sensitivity. You place the suction cup over. I actually like mine a little bit under my clit because I like there's a use spot right under the clitoris that really gets
Mhm.
me there, but not too fast and I don't get sensitive. Then with this internal arm, which hits my G spot perfectly. Like this thing is so, it just fits bodies perfectly. I've yet to have someone complain about it. I like to put a pattern on the internal arm with the vibration. I want people to start exploring patterns because those patterns are built to build anticipation. And patterns and anticipation works best when arousal is already high.
Yes,
So
not
the
from the
external,
beginning.
not from the beginning. So this external, if you've ever used pleasure air tech, it does not take long to get you aroused. Like it's gonna
No.
like pull you up pretty quick. So
Yep.
you get yourself aroused. If you want to have it like steady, until then, fine. Then hit your pattern. And the minute you do that, and I like just a tapping, kind of like someone's,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. And it's like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, fuck, that's what the fucking pattern's for, is it builds arousal. And it will take longer. Not too much longer because you got this little baby working on you and it's never going to let you hang too long, but it's going to bring you up. And when you hit that orgasm, you don't have to stop.
Oh my
Like you
goodness.
are gonna sit there and orgasm and you're gonna orgasm
Rolling,
and then maybe switch
rolling.
your hips around and move a little bit where that mouth is, and then you're gonna come back up. Like this is if you want to experience a rolling orgasm, multiple orgasms. I have spent 2 hours with this girl.
So
Um,
what's the website? Womanizer.com? Is that it? Yes.
womanizer.com and at
The
15
code
for
is
15% off.
Annette15 to get her
Mhm.
discount. This is I'm probably gonna buy this with your discount.
This is this is
I want to try this. You got me all
I
excited.
swear by this.
I'm currently
Um,
aroused from this conversation.
and then you said, I think you told me you had a lady love.
I
Here's what you
do.
do. You just
Okay,
have her
tell
lay
me.
back and you say, babe,
Lay down,
I'm gonna take
honey.
you on a
It's my
ride.
turn. Yeah.
Mhm. And maybe you warm her up and like do like because you're, I'm sure you wanna experience her. And then you just say, hang out. And you like put it on and you put it on lowly. Get to know her first, put it on
Yeah.
low, and then you experiment with turning the volume up, bringing in, and just watch her go. And then tell her when she comes, like, tell her to hang in there. She's going to be like, oh no, I'm done. You're like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
Just relax. You bring it down low and have fun. But I do want to just to anyone who's listening and you're still in that place where you're struggling, you're probably like, oh, that seems like too much. This is a very simple tool. Once you are able to explore internally, if you're experiencing pain or your body shutting down, obviously don't push it. This is kind of a nice one too because you can see it's not that big. So you can just kind of
Yeah.
put it right inside and turn it on gently.
Yeah.
Lots of lube. But it gives
Yes.
you that
Lube.
external stimulation.
I didn't realize how much lube was necessary for the Pleasure Air Tech toys when I first started trying them. And I was like so underwhelmed. I was like, this feels bad. I don't understand why it's a craze. And then I introduced the concept of like plenty of
Mm.
lube and was like, oh, it is so good. And I was so stupid. So, yes,
Well,
lube.
that's why I actually think that this is a good intro. If you haven't used Pleasure Air Tech before, Enhance is great because it's also going to give you the vibrations while you figure out the suction. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, there's a learning curve and this is good. because you need to learn your body. And a lot of people don't. And if you just grab a big wand and shove it down there, you don't have to know where anything is. It's going to
Right.
vibrate everything. But this is
Right.
going to help you explore your vulva because you can put the suction all over your vulva and see what lights you up. You can put it on the clitoris, over the hood of the clitoris, on the U spot, right? And
Yes.
and if this and
There's
then
so much
once you
subtlety and nuance to the pleasure that can be created with the vulva. Like it and if you again, yeah, if you're just like doing what I used to do with the giant ass Hitachi because it's easy and
bam,
convenient and effort free, you're not getting there and you can be fooled into thinking there's not much fun to be had in masturbation, but it's a lie.
I do want to say, I do think that there are studies that show that the suction technology, once you figure it out, it is less likely to quote numb you out or for your body to habituate to it, meaning that your body gets used to it and then the sensation isn't as effective
Right.
because of the way it's built. And that's why it's one of my favorite, especially for someone who's been numb from trauma or whose body has tried to numb itself out to protect her. Using
Yeah.
Pleasure Air Tech, I just feel like it can be a nice, gentle, kissy, blowy. In fact, if you're extra sensitive, you don't even have to touch it to your skin and you'll get that, like the airwaves to you.
Yeah.
And I'm such a
Yeah.
big believer in it because this has transformed my life. I'm not just speaking, yes, they are, and I am have an affiliate relationship, but I have that relationship because I love their products and it's been a game changer in my sex life. So totally suggest it, exploring it and finding the different ones that work for you. So
So, listeners, as you can see, as you can hear, Annette is a font of wisdom to help you with your sexual healing, whether or not you're a trauma survivor. Go follow her on Instagram and TikTok, yes? Or just Instagram?
yeah, so I'm on Instagram. My handle is Annette Benedetti. I'm on TikTok and Facebook at have talk sex. I have sex with Annette. Cut that out. At talk sex with Annette, and then I have my podcast, which is Talk Sex with Annette,
Which you
and
must subscribe to. It is full of so much amazing information. Our episode was recently dropped and it's so much fun. Subscribe to Talk Sex with Annette. Follow Annette. Go to her website if you'd like to work with her directly, talksexwithannette.com. Annette Benedetti, you are so hot. I think I have a crush on you. 2 conversations in 2
oh,
weeks, and I am
it's
just
been
like
great.
lit up. Thank you so much. We've got
Same.
to have you back on and hear a little bit more about your testosterone journey in like 6 months or so. Would you come back?
I I absolutely would love to talk about that, especially from a
Great.
place of being on the journey, because I think a lot of women are curious about it. And I definitely want to have you on again. I went back and listened through our episode, and I have to tell you guys, like, seriously listen to the episode because truly there were some. Um, it was funny and fun. And it reminded me of my early episodes where just me and my girlfriends were talking. But it was 2 women who have so much more knowledge now than I did, or they did back then. And there are some great tips for having better sex and pleasuring women. It is such a good
Yes.
episode.
It's so good. You got to go listen to it. Everybody who wants to pleasure women, go listen to that episode and follow this amazing woman. Annette, thank you so much for talking to me today. Are you a happy slut?
I am the happiest slut alive. I wouldn't want to be anything else.
Yes. All right, we'll talk again
Yeah.
soon. Mwah.
Bye.
Feeling so alive. So long till the sorry days. Yeah, bye bye bye.
Isn't she so freaking fun? What a story. And what a wonderful attitude around sex and sexuality that she's got now. I wish that much and more for all of you listening. All of the links that we mentioned in the show can be found in the show notes. The episode I did for Annette's podcast, Talk Sex with Annette, is there in the show notes too. It is called A Bi Girl's Guide to Great Sex. So it really is chock full of really amazing sex tips if you happen to be a person who wants to please women or vulva owners in bed. So go check that out. Thank you so much for supporting the show, for listening to the show. Like I said at the beginning, your reviews really help. Leave a review if you haven't already. Feel free to email me your thoughts or DM me on social media. I'm Samia.mounts on Instagram. The show is Happy Slutcast on Instagram and TikTok. I see every DM. I see every comment. My email address is happyslutcast@gmail.com. So email me your thoughts, your constructive criticism, your wishes, hopes, dreams, aspirations, advice questions. I will be putting more listener advice questions on the show coming up, and I love hearing from you guys. So get in touch with me. You can support the show financially by becoming a paying subscriber to my Substack, samiamounts.substack.com. I just released an essay last weekend about why I like to share my lovers with my friends. If that sounds wild to you and you want to know more, head on over samiamounts.substack.com. Read that essay. It is the most recent one that I've published. Become a paying subscriber to read the whole thing, though. Half of it is behind a paywall. I really appreciate all you happy sluts out there. I'm hearing from more and more of you every week, which is so great. Remember, if you can't support the show financially, but you are into what I'm doing, sharing an episode on your socials or personally with a friend via text or email is even better. Send an episode that helped you to somebody else that you think it could help. That's all I ask. I will be back next week with another fire conversation. I'm going to be bringing you my convo with Marnie Kinrys. She is your personal wing girl. She developed the Wing Girl Method, which is a comprehensive guide for men on how to flirt with women. And she, like me, sees the fact that men have no idea how to flirt with women as a mental health crisis. These guys are flailing. They are lonely. They don't know how to see women as people. And Marnie Kinrys is out there doing the goddess's work of helping them to approach women as equals and as human beings with curiosity, with openness. She's teaching men how to have charm. She's teaching men how to really ask questions and be sincere. And it's a great thing. I'm super stoked to bring you that conversation next week. Until then, do something pleasurable this weekend, sweethearts. Take care of yourselves. Bye, sluts.